Right, this is going to be a very short video for me, and it's going to be on the subject of CO2 training. Just recently on the internet, there have been questions, for the first time, there have been questions about our whole philosophy of CO2 training. This, in my opinion, is long overdue. For many years ago, we did the first CO2 tables, published them. I'm aware that there were other people, probably Umberto's school, that also had similar tables. But, okay, this is the beginning of CO2 training, and it was based on the classic idea that in order to train CO2, now what do we mean by training CO2? Do we mean eliminating CO2? No, that's not possible. Do we mean inuring the body to higher levels of CO2? Maybe. Do we mean delaying the onset of contractions? All these ideas were flown. So we did it on the classic idea of you did a certain number of lengths of a pool, and with a certain amount of breaths in between or a certain amount of time in between each repetition, that gradually decreased the interval between each repetition, so that there was a continuous and increasing buildup of CO2 into massive doses when you got down to the area of one breath between each length of the pool. This is just an example. There are many variations of the same model. The same thing with static, the idea being the same length of breath hold each time, but a decreasing interval between breath holds, and therefore an increase in the buildup of CO2, which would be rapid and severe. So we tried this for a long time, and it had not bad result for beginners. For more advanced divers, I felt it was counterproductive, and strongly so. For many years now, I have not had access to swimming pools or anything else, so I have not talking. I'm leaving out pool diving here as a different discipline. The physiology is different, the strategies are different, everything. So I'm talking about depth. Extreme CO2 training for depth is a big mistake. This year I have had divers who were stuck at 92 meters. So you try to find out why they were stuck. Well, one of the things was, tell me, when did you get the first contraction? Oh, I got to 25 meters. The conversation went on a bit in this particular case before I realized maybe I was on the wrong track. I presumed he meant 25 meters from the surface on the ascent. No, the young gentleman in question actually meant during 25 meters from the surface during the descent. That means more than 3/4 or 7/8 of the dive was on contractions. Thank you very much. I do not want contractions on the descent, particularly on a long dive. They're a superb invitation to lung squeeze and other associated problems, including pulmonary edema. That is counterproductive. I had one female trainee who came to me, and she had female records for one country in pool, and she had done, I think, 205 meters in dynamic, and she had done 170 odd meters in no fins. And I said to her, the 205 meters, do you remember when you got your first contractions? She said, yes, I do actually. It was at 40 meters. She was in a 50-meter pool, and in the first lap, she didn't complete the first lap without getting contractions. Now, wait a minute. That meant over 165 meters on contractions. That is physical torture. That's something I don't think even the KGB, the CIA, or the Mossad do. That's over the top, guys. You shouldn't treat animals or humans that way. So I said to her, yeah, I bet I know how you were training. You were doing very short-term CO2 turnarounds. I think that means to say a very short interval between your lengths in CO2 in swimming in the pool. And she said, yes, that's exactly what it was, extreme CO2 training. I said, yeah, well, the result of that is you're going to get contractions on the way down in depth, and that's exactly what we don't want. And it had messed her up psychologically to an enormous degree, because it was drawing on her ultimate reserves of courage and of everything else to do dives with 150 50 odd meters is on contractions. That's ridiculous. So I said, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going down that road. So a long time ago, we had the idea that maybe CO2 should be trained not as a separate entity, but in balance, so that hypoxia and hypercapnia maintained their natural proportions, just at higher and higher pressures. And that seemed to work extraordinarily well. So that's something I pass on, and it's our only 2 cents worth in what I feel is going to be a reopening of the whole event, the whole subject of CO2 training, because that jar has now been opened by more people than me, and that's why I chose to chip in my 2 cents worth at this stage. And we're going to see what comes out of it. But it's about time that it happened. This is not producing the results that we wanted, hoped for, or anything else, the current attitude towards CO2. CO2 is not an enemy. CO2 is something that has to be understood. In depth, we have to consider the thing that CO2 is a huge augmenter of narcosis, to the point where I believe William Trubridge has declared that, correct me if I'm wrong on this, that there's no such thing as nitrogen narcosis in freediving, it's all CO2. I don't, if that's a true report of his opinion, I don't agree with him. I maintain that there is nitrogen narcosis, but because it's a small quantity, it's augmented hugely by CO2. Over this, we're very close to having the same attitude. But I think it's time that the whole of that subject should be revisited, and I will be very interested to see what the outcomes are.